Hello, Doctor. We are from Group 5, and my group member is Nur Afifah, Sara, Irdina, Vanessa, Clara, and also me, myself. In this video, we are going to present this topic named Direct Speech and Indirect Speech. Before we start, let's take a look at the overview. Firstly, we will have the introduction, and then later we will look at part 1, part 2, part 3 about the transcription and finding, and lastly, we will have a conclusions. Without further ado, let's get started. So we have recorded a video that is presented by two main speakers named Siti Nur Shohada and Ahmad Iqbal. Both of them are a married couple. We have recorded this video in a seafood restaurant where they are ordering food. The duration of this video is around 3 minutes, and from this video, both of them does not fully utilize English but incorporate their mother language, which is Bahasa Melayu. Therefore, we have divided this video into 3 parts of transcript by minutes to further explain about the integration of both direct speech and indirect speech in both English and also Bahasa Melayu. Alright, so according to Bowers and Broomfield, grammar is a language. In other words, to master the 4 major skills in English, which is listening, reading, writing, and speaking, we have to first master English grammar. Well, when they have mastered this English grammar, they can speak well, listen well, read well, and also write well in English. So, as we know, grammar incorporates a wide range of aspects, and it included direct speech and indirect speech. So we use this direct speech and indirect speech in our daily conversation. So let's take a look at what Clark says about direct speech and also indirect speech. Okay, according to Clark, it says that direct speech focuses on the content of the statement, which is depiction-like, while indirect speech focuses on the main message that is delivered without looking thoroughly at the wording, which is description-like. Okay, let's take a look at this table. So this table has clearly explained more about direct speech and indirect speech. Now, I'm going to tell you about the differences about these two speech. So for direct speech, it's depiction-like, which means the writers look into the words clearly, while description-like is the writers look at the content, the message, without looking at the words. So it is different. And also, another one is that this direct speech has this quotation marks, while in the indirect speech, they don't use this quotation marks. Next, direct speech show exactly how the idea of the written text. So it is straightforward. It does not change the tenses or the sentence structure. Well, this is totally different in indirect speech. So it do change the sentence structures, and it do change the tenses and pronouns that are used in this indirect speech. So the indirect speech is interested in the information and not the words itself. So we can also say that the idea is delivered with the same intention, but without using the identical words. All right, so now you know what is direct speech and indirect speech, and now I will pass to my friends to explain to you what have we recorded in the video and what have we analyzed from the video.
Assalamualaikum and hi doctor, my name is Nur Afifah. I will be the second presenter. So throughout this presentation, we will discuss a real-life conversation between Shohada and Iqbal while deciding the menu for their lunch. And this conversation will unravel the intricacies of communication, and our main focus would be on direct and indirect speech acts. This whole conversation will be divided into 3 parts, and I'm doing part 1, so I will be giving some explanation based on the analysis that I've done for part 1. For doctor's information, the yellow highlighted words are for the direct speech acts, and the blue one are for indirect speech acts. Okay, so direct speech acts characterized by a straightforward and explicit communication, which it foster a clear and unambiguous exchange. So in the conversation, Shuhada initiates the interaction by directly asking Iqbal about his food preference, establishing an environment for a collaborative decision making without exerting undue pressure. And Shuhada's direct approach is marked by assertiveness and clarity, which she goes by, what are we going to order now? What do you want? Okay, so the directness encourages Iqbal to make a decision based on his preference, contributing to a decisive and efficient efficient conversation. Okay, so Iqbal responds in a similarly direct manner, stating his preference on siakap or for siakap, and using clear, unambiguous question like fried squid. Okay, Iqbal's response characterized by firm statement and direct question, and it contribute to the overall clarity and effectiveness of the exchange or of the whole conversation. Okay, so in contrast, indirect speech acts emphasize politeness and a friendly tone or a friendlier tone, okay, which it require a nuanced interpretation. Shuhada employs indirect communication by subtly suggesting, let's see for fish section, okay, something like that. Okay, this indirect approach invites Iqbal to make a decision without issuing a direct order or directly asking him to do so. Okay, so it fosters a more polite and open-ended interaction. And Iqbal's use of colloquial language such as la, which in his sentence sweet sour la, okay, adds a friendly and informal touch to his indirect request regarding the sweet and sour flavor for the fish, for the siakap. Okay, so Shuhada continues her indirect approach, which fish sweet and sour. What else? So what else? Okay, so here the phrase so what else subtly encourages Iqbal to suggest more meal or more meal options without explicitly instructing him to do so. Okay, so is this indirect strategy not only respects Iqbal's autonomy or Iqbal's decision, but also contributes to a friendly and accommodating tone. Okay, so Iqbal reciprocates with an indirect inquiry about the size for the fried squid, using the option you want small to allow Shuhada to specify her preference without feeling pressured. Okay, so this analysis illustrates how both direct and indirect speech acts play crucial roles in communication. Okay, so while directness facilitates a decisive and efficient exchange, indirectness, in the other hand, okay, adds a layer of politeness and a friendliness, and it contributes to a cooperative and respectful tone. So Shuhada and Iqbal skillfully navigate their conversation, utilizing both direct and indirect approaches to enhance our overall clarity and effectiveness of their communication during the conversation. Okay, I think that's all from me. Thank you.
Hi, Assalamualaikum Doctor. I am Sara. I'll be presenting part 2 of the transcription. A little background story. The conversation is between Shuhada and Iqbal in choosing the menu at a restaurant. Okay, few examples of direct and indirect speech can be identified from the transcription. For your information, the yellow highlighted is direct speech, while the blue highlight is the indirect speech. Okay, based on my understanding, direct speech shows the person exact word, no changes being made that could potentially modify the meaning. It is basically like direct repetition. The phrase lemon chicken medium R is where Shuhada basically repeated what she said earlier when she recommended lemon chicken to Iqbal. Then Iqbal mentioned, I love kailan with salted fish, whereas he has mentioned kailan twice earlier, then combined it with salted fish. He agreed to what Shuhada said by repeating Shuhada's word. Next, Shuhada repeated the same menu again when she replied to Iqbal to confirm in the third highlighted phrase. In this particular situation, the use of direct speech helps the listener to understand the meanings better. It is actually much more clearer. This example shows how the same word is repeated again and again, displaying the accurate meaning and the function of direct speech. Okay, next, indirect speech, on the other hand, it reports on what being said but not in the same words, or in short, it is literally like paraphrasing. Firstly, we can see where Iqbal agreed to Shuhada's suggestion by saying yapt. Instead of saying, oh, I agree with you, yada yada, he just said yapt as a sign of agreement. Iqbal also said, no, I want this one, by referring to the menu telur dadah, while maybe showing the picture of it. He did not say, I don't want telur dadah with prawn, but instead he paraphrased his sentence, which sounds a lot more softer, rather than straight up rejecting negatively Shuhada's suggestion. Shuhada then said, okay, telur dadah only. From these examples, we can see that the function of indirect speech is to avoid offense or misunderstandings. The function of indirect speech is to avoid offense or discomfort in any conversation that could lead to arguments or misunderstandings. Hence, indirect speech is a good alternative to soften the conversation. In addition, the use of armed is quite a lot in this conversation, as you can see from the transcription. It is known as vocal disfluency or filler word that actually signals a delay in the person's process of thought. While it is not particularly bad, but the usage itself could bring a negative impression on the listener. So it is suggested to lessen the use of filler word in any conversation or speech. Next, I will pass to the next presenter to present. Thank you.
Alright, I'm Vanessa Clara. I will continue with the part 3 of this conversation. So most of the types of speech being used are direct speech. So for example, number 1, when Iqbal asks, you want to drink? We can refer to line 5. It means that he is inviting Shuhada to order a drink. As per supported by Stephanie et al. 2023, Iqbal is using the locutionary act of assertive, in which the question can easily be understood by the listener because there is no other meaning outside the context. And then next, we can refer to line 7, which indicates that he wants tea with ice or served cold. He is using a locutionary act of the directive, as it is easy to understand by the listener. And then she is using a discourse mark of to initiate the discourse. She is using an illocutionary imperative by starting with let's recall. So we're gonna have siakap sweet sour, sotong squid, and then blah 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 for line 10. And we move on to indirect speech. For example, we refer to line 6, where there's illocutionary act of directive. It says that I want tea cold, you also the same, right? She is saying something with purpose to influence his choice of drink. And then next, illocutionary act of expressive, we can refer to line 8. Iced tea, okay, similar, it's same. Tea cold and also iced tea. Haha. She's actually referring to Iqbal that it was hilarious. She is being expressive. And then that would be the last one. So for conclusion, our opinion about this assignment is that the notion of direct and indirect discourse carries the same theory as APA citation in writing, in which it exists direct and indirect citation. So direct and indirect discourse contributes greatly to the conversation, such as softening the tone of the conversation, crystal clear comprehension in terms of thought and meaning, avoid misunderstanding, and foster subtlety, and many more. That's all from our group. Thank you.